All right, here we are for another recap of the OG Twilight Zone. We're here to talk about episode 2 of season 1.
We're just in the beginning of this whole thing.
So what happens in this episode, Lee?
There's a pitchman visited by Death.
Yeah, and Death seemed undeath-like to me, in that it should be like a rule and not like a... There seems like a lot of exceptions to be had here with Death.
Loved that. Let's just get this off the bat. You've already watched the episode at home, audience members.
Of course.
We don't have to go through the whole thing, because these episodes are short, and only like one thing happens usually, and it's just a matter of highlighting and eventually describing everything by way of highlighting or all that shit. So this is the oldest story ever. This has been in like so many things, right? You're living your life, a dude shows up, by the way, I'm Death, you're gonna die. And he goes, wait, no, and then like some sort of parable or story or thing like ensues or whatever. I actually love the idea of Death as like a bureaucrat, as like a guy who's like, okay, let me just write that, and like, I have a checklist, I have appointments, I have a watch. Like, I really liked that, as opposed to like the whole other interpretations of Death.
I don't have a problem with Death being like a banker. My problem is that Death was not bankery enough for me. It should be so cut and so dry. There are rules I am following. I'm on a mission. I have a watch. I have to be here at this time and this time. And even if there were exceptions, to me it did not seem a proper use of Death's abilities. Death should have outsmarted him and made him do what he wanted, but it felt more like, oh, you tricked me, but all works out in the end. Like, that's what it felt like. Yeah. Opposed to, I worked you to the scenario. I set you up for this epic checkmate. You said, all right, you want one more grift or whatever, where you sell something to the angel, blah, 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 some bullshit there. And I'm like, okay, well, someone's got to die in your place. I'm going to take this little girl. And then you do your shit. And then like, oh, no, oh, go, let me save her. Oh, I just want to save her. Okay, here, okay, I'm good. I can go now. And he goes, yep. He should and he should just smoke a cigarette and walk away, like he just knows what he did. But it came off the opposite of that. It came off as like, oh, hokey dokey dee dee dee.
It did, and I'm not sure why they chose to play it off like that. My low point is when his pitch is actually working on Death.
Yes, and he's buying everything.
He's buying ties
he's
and stuff.
Fucking Death.
That part I totally don't like.
Silk for only $25. I'm buying it. I need it. Give me all of it. He has a bag. Where'd that bag come from? I don't know.
I know. He just has a bag of things. That guy sold him that bag. That's how good he is.
This was not my favorite Twilight Zone episode.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like the actual episode and the way that it all plays out, I am not in love with. I just wanted to highlight that Death type of interpretation, because this is not Satan we're talking about. He's not trying to whatever, And I liked the idea of him saying, well, I can't go home empty-handed, so I gotta do this. Yeah. And then that roping him back in and all that stuff. And something else was weird. The end of Lou Bookman's pitch is all and a manservant, the likes of which you've never seen before, and all that stuff. Like trying to pitch himself to Death. And I actually thought Death was going to be like, you're right, I have an obvious gap in my skill set here that you could fill, so you and me are going to go
and be Death together,
do this to more people, because that seemed obvious to me, because Death fell for this horrible oldest trick in the book that is this guy's whole thing, and he literally ended his pitch with and you get me and all that stuff. And I thought it was very clear that was what was going to happen, and then it totally didn't. And I was like, is that just assumed? I don't think it is. I think I just made that up.
It just so much of it fell apart for me. Even if you just include the fact that he takes that little girl's life, right? Yeah. So he's planning on taking her life because he couldn't get that one. But he says he has a book and it has the dates and the times. That's clearly not her time. You're just fucking up everything. He really
needs a soul.
It really angered me. I don't know.
He needs a soul to feed his soul-burning machine.
I guess. But if we go down, there were 3 exceptions to Death.
Yes. I wrote them down.
So read them if you have them.
A hardship case. Do you have wife, kids, a family, someone that would suffer unduly based on your departure?
Number 2.
Number 2. Priority case. Are you a statesman, scientist, working on a great revelation?
Number 3.
Unfinished business of a major nature? That doesn't sound right, but yes. Unfinished business.
So if I'm Death and I came to you right now, and I tell you those 3 things, what would you try to use
I'm like
to get out of
curing
it?
cancer. I got like 17 kids that I don't even know about, let alone the 143 kids I do. It's tough out there for a gangster. I gotta make money. I gotta put it in envelopes and mail it to Ethiopia. There's kids dependent on me.
So he goes, all right then, let's just sing. And because he's the gulliblest motherfucker in the world,
apparently he would believe that.
He signs this thing, and then he goes, all right, so when will you be done with this?
Like 700 years? I don't know. Depends.
And presumably he'd be like, all right.
All right.
He seemed like so easy to get one over on.
My favorite moment was when Death is like, he's like appearing in the different places, and he's like, I think you've taken advantage of me. And then the guy slams the door and says, it may seem that way, because I am, or something
yes.
like that. I was like, yes, fuck you, Death.
But I'm like, he's Death, he's all powerful, and he didn't sign anything. Like, why do you think that you have one over on him?
It's a verbal agreement. It's binding. Yes.
He didn't say that. Fing.
I
also would have loved at the end. He's like accepted it. He's walking with Death in the hallway. He's like, I am going to heaven, aren't I? And I would love if he went, oh no.
I think there were like broadcast standards back then. There's an episode of the Twilight Zone that we will eventually get to. I saw this like was it a documentary or something? It was called The Other Place.
Okay.
Because they couldn't actually say the word hell. And have it be whatever time slot and channel and like whatever. So there's a whole episode of the Twilight Zone where a guy's afraid of going to hell, but he has to say, "I'm going upstairs, right? Not the other place," or whatever. And so there's like a documentary about broadcast standards during the 50s or whatever,
okay.
And I think it's called The Other Place. I may have made that up. You should make a documentary, because I'm not going to, and title it that. Because, yes, they had to, like, say stuff in like a certain other way or something like that.
It makes sense. We were a lot stricter then. It's so funny how we went from being, like, so strict to, like, the opposite of strict, and now we're kind of like bastards again.
How so? What do you mean by bastards?
So you went from, like, being so strict you can't say hell on TV, and then it was like, okay, this movie's rated PG and has nudity in it. And then there was, like, just not ratings.
I was like, you get one shit. Well, the DVD has titties. Let your kids buy it. It's fine.
Pretty much.
And you're like, what?
And then, like, it's like, well, kind of anything flies now. But you can't say words, because certain words make people upset.
Okay, those words. We can't even say those words now, because the internet will get so upset.
No, and those words can be anything for any person. Like it could be transgendered. It could be
the list grows every day. And
I know.
And sometimes I'm just fucking old, where I didn't know that word was on the list yet. And I go, okay.
Yeah.
It sucks.
No, it's crazy.
It must be hard to make things now, because people are all like, you can't say that, you can't show this, you can't have this.
My biggest pet peeve is just that every year there are new words that are off limits, and I'm like, they're fucking words, you bastards.
Have you thought about checking your privilege?
I love it when you use a word correctly and people still get upset about it.
Yep.
Like, well, it retarded his ability to do that. And he's like, you can't say retarded. And
How
I'm like,
dare you?
Get a fucking dictionary, you douche.
Adam Carolla has a thing where he's looking for a pair of linesman's dikes or whatever they're called, and it's a whole bit where he's telling the story, and then he's like, and finally the lady at the hardware store starts crying and says, "Stop saying that word," or whatever, and I'm like, what? This whole thing goes on. It's like, what is it? A sharp thing? You do something?
Yeah, I loved. We grew up near a place called Dyke's Lumber.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was a lot of fun when you were in middle school.
Yeah.
But besides that, irrelevant.
Yes.
To our lives. Pretty good.
No, and it's gone now, so it doesn't matter.
They shut that fucking place down. Oh, yes.
The Snowflakes, they picketed. It was his last name.
It was literally the guys that owned a lumber company. Yeah. But it's funny to have Dykes and Wood together.
Of
the
course.
Jokes write themselves endlessly. I'd forgotten all about that until you brought it up.
Yeah, I had no reason to remember it.
So,
yeah, nothing super exciting happens
we exhausted everything in this episode?
This one, it's a very simple one. It's not even a concept you could really go into that much detail thinking about it outside the box, because it's not really a scenario.
Yeah, well, besides the fact that, like I said at the top of the episode, this, scenario in, like, movies, TV, like, jokes, like, everything, this is, like, super common now. I wonder how common it was then, if this was, like, a revolutionary idea to have death come and visit you or whatever.
I think I was more interested in how this man makes a living. So he's out on the corner.
Yes.
He's got his like classic like fold out suitcase table thing, and he's selling like wind-up toys.
Junk? Like where does he get
Pretty
the
much
junk?
junk. But he has a house, and I wondered, I'm like, how much do things cost then you could afford these things? And I'm like, they still scaled.
He has a room.
Yes.
At one point, he says very distinctly, "I have lived in this room for 21 years," and I'm like, "That's right. You live in one room."
But just think about it.
Bookman.
How much do you think that room cost? Because, like, adjusting for inflation, I don't know how much he's selling things for, but I'm sure if he got like a nickel a day, he was probably rolling in the deep.
It felt kind of New Yorky and shit. So
but he had to buy all the things he's selling at some point. He didn't just happen across them. But the first he does when he gets home is he gives the toys to 2 of the 8 children just to make 6 of them like pissed. He's like, "Here you go, Susie. Here you go, Bobby," and the rest of them are like,
The rest of y'all can go fuck yourself. Get a seat in the front next time. I'm out, and then goes.
But he says something about like, "Don't forget to come down for ice cream later," or some bullshit like that. Where I'm like, he's supporting the whole neighborhood off of his like, essentially homeless pedals that he has on the side of the road.
Yes, so he was. I actually loved that, and that was going to be my last thing. Was I love the idea of pitchman being an actual occupation or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Because it makes no sense. It
was,
now.
I think.
It's entirely crazy, this idea of a guy. And like the narration and everything that, like around it makes it seem like this totally mundane thing. That a guy would just be picking a spot, setting up shop. The greatest wares of all the thing come from, like his pitch, I'm not going to call it good, but it had these elements, these like old-timey, hokey elements to it or whatever. Like, not for 10, not for 5, no, for the ridiculous price of what, like
for a quarter.
The cadence of it was crazy.
He's like, each spool of this thread has to be smuggled out of the Orient on pigeons' necks.
Yes, exactly.
They fly with just 3 centimeters apiece.
Amazing.
That doesn't make any sense. It's a spool of string. You can't be smuggling that in pieces without it being knots.
I know that. We all know that. That's what makes it better. That's what makes it insane. I kind of love that. Just this like endless barrage, like the salesmanship, the old timey like take your hat, put your hat there, do your hat, ma'am, you like that fucking something about that I respond to very well. I liked seeing that fucking thing.
And how old is he? He was like, I'm gonna be 70, right?
69.
Yeah,
69 years young.
He looked 100 years old if he was a day.
I
think it's just if you look at people then. Everyone like looked the age that they should be, but now it's like, how old are you? 73. They look like they're 29. You're like, Jesus Christ, what are people doing?
Yeah, now he probably was that old, and that's just
he probably was. Yeah,
the actual actor was, and now we just get people of random ages.
Yeah,
and like you say, either fill them with Botox or just get someone younger to just play the fucking thing.
Yeah, didn't James Bond just died and he was 69?
Who?
Roger Moore.
Oh, thank God.
Who are you afraid of?
Well, Sean Connery, first of all.
And Sean Connery's like 92 or something, right?
He can never die.
He's the Highlander.
He's the Highlander. Oh, he could take it with you.
Yeah. I think that's all we have to say about episode 2 of The Twilight Zone. And until next time, don't die in a fire, and we'll see you then.